So here's what's interesting. I was just watching, of all things, a John Oliver clip. Like John Oliver is now, without audience, posting these videos to YouTube that are kind of like in the same format of his show. And he was talking about how, well, all of these people have conspiracy theories, basically, or have their heads loaded with misinformation vis-a-vis the situation that's going on because of the media they listen to. And he pulls up this clip of this pastor saying, talking about how, oh, like, I curse thee, I make thee go away, or something like that, like, begone pandemic, something like that. Um, and then there's these, basically the implication is the response to be the questioning response, or the response that isn't basically towing the institutional line on what's going on right now, is born out of a top down, oh well, yeah, this person in this alternative media sphere that I watch, is whether they be a pastor, or like a right wing, a firebrand conservative news host, or whatever, is or is basically, the information comes from these people. I think this is completely wrong. See, clearly, uh, I mean, the fact that you can't say you can't say the C word on YouTube, and Facebook is also taking down non-institutional information about this. I think Twitter might be doing the same thing as well, banning accounts and removing posts, censoring and hiding posts, demonetizing posts that that have to do with what's going on right now. Clearly, there is something going on, right? So, so the, I mean, basically, what the take is, follow the institutional narrative. But institutions right now, whether they be governmental institutions, whether it be the Federal Reserve, whether it be social media institutions, whether it be the WHO, whether it be the CCP, institutions, whether they be our institutions over here in America, or whether they be world institutions, or private institutions. Clearly, there is something is going on that I think would reasonably lead most people to feel as if they are, A, being kept out of the loop, and B, building on that, being managed, basically. I think people feel managed, and people know when they're being managed, and people know when they're having information gated off from them, and people know when, something's afoot, basically. So the problem with conspiracy theories is that basically, people think they're too smart. People think that it's even possible for them to get it, for them to figure it all out. The fact is, you just don't have the information. So, I mean, Eric Weinstein was talking about this earlier. He was talking about how, like, you know, looking for something to say that, that is correct, and that sort of describes the fact that, there are things going on, basically, without being so certain in saying, like, ah, yes, this is my theory. I think this happened, that happened, this guy and that guy. But yeah, basically, I think skepticism of institutions has, I hope, amongst most people, risen, and yeah, that response is perfectly reasonable. The problem with where people shoot themselves in the foot is when they're like, oh, yes, this happened, that happened, this happened, that happened. And yes, to be fair, that does come from, often watching too much media of self-assured people who think that they know what's up and think that they would know what happened. Point is, we don't know what's going on. We don't know, like, there are probably lots of different, like, managerial schemes that are probably occurring independently of one another. But the point is, yes, you are being managed by at least one, if not many, many different institutions right now, big institutions that are far bigger than you, that you have no control over. And you have a right to be upset about being managed, whether you don't like being managed by local city government, being told where to stay, whether you don't like the way that information is being managed, the way that information is being gated, whether you feel as if the CCP was lying, the WHO was lying, the U.S. government was perhaps lying, et cetera, et cetera. As well as the response, the type of response. Yeah, people have a right to be upset about being managed. And people should, I hope it should become more socially acceptable for people to, realize that they're being managed. And while not explicitly naming, saying, oh, well, this is what's going on, if they could just say, well, something's going on. Clearly, we're being managed. I don't know exactly what's afoot, but clearly things are not as we're being told.